Welcome to PRAJNA Sparks, a podcast where we listen to a Dharma talk, contemplate with our minds and in our hearts, and engage in guided meditation. In this episode, we're going to be exploring mind further. Every episode of PRAJNA Sparks takes hours to plan, record, and edit. We ask that, if you haven't already, you give us some time today to like, subscribe, share, and review our podcast. Alongside your own practice, this is the best possible offering as it helps the Dharma reach new listeners.
For some months now, we've been looking at mind through the lens of the Kagyu lineage of Tibetan Buddhism's teachings on Mahamudra. Mahamudra presents a really interesting approach to understanding mind, which, as we've discussed before, can simply be defined as the realm of whatever we experience. Mind is our experience. Whether we are experiencing what is called samsara, cyclic existence, or nirvana, the transcendence of all misery, depends on mind. In what way is that true? In the context of these teachings, this is true because there is not a division or sharp distinction where samsara is here and nirvana is there, and never the twain shall meet. Rather, the very nature of samsara is nirvana. In other words, everything we are experiencing is by nature nirvana, perfectly pure, and yet we experience them in a vast display that can range in the context of the Buddhist teachings from worlds of celestial heavens, rich with every kind of wealth, abundance, and pleasure, down to the depths of sheer torment and dismay described as hell realms. In other words, these are not external things that you go to or encounter separate from oneself. Rather, these realms of experience are mind, tinted by the karma and kleshas that we carry to project a particular quality of experience. We can see that in our own everyday life in very simple ways. For example, if we go to work or are out in our neighborhood for a walk and we pass someone who's usually very friendly and pleasant to us and they walk right past us without even looking in a very rushed manner, we might immediately think, oh, they're angry at us. What did I do wrong? Maybe we spend the rest of the day really anxious and worried or angry back at them. Sometime down the road, perhaps we find out that this person just heard some bad news or was very caught up in an issue at work or with their family and just didn't notice us there because they were in their own little world. There are other descriptions than the ones that we attribute to what we experience. This is a very simplistic example, but one that we can relate to in our immediate experience. What we think of as life or the world from the perspective of these teachings is a series of almost magical displays that are colored by the particular predispositions, the karmic conditioning of our mind. So that if I see a box which just brought a brand new blender to my house, I look at it and see it as something that I need to take apart and fold down and make into recycling. My cat definitely sees it as an indispensable element to their happiness, jumps right in and makes herself at home. And woe be to anyone who tries to take that box away from her. Very different experiences. The subjective realities of that box are quite different for each of us, and for those who share some amount of the karmic conditioning that leads us to those assumptions. When we put all of those different experiences together, this is what we call apparent reality. Kind of an oxymoron, isn't it? Is it apparent, seeming, it appears to be that way, or is it real? In Tibetan, the word is even more enigmatic. Kunzup Dempa. Dempa is truth or reality, and Kunzup is all obscuring. This is an element of reality that is somehow obscuring or fake or deceiving. In the King of Samadhi Sutra, the Buddha describes our experience thus. All the images conjured up by a magician, horses, elephants, and chariots in the illusions they cast. Whatever may appear there, know that none of it is real. And it is just like that, with everything there is. This is a rather old-fashioned example, popular at the time, but we have an immediate, everyday example. Think of a movie or a program that you're streaming on TV. You see all kinds of images there. You get very caught up in the story. The different dramatic elements are causing you to feel fear or sadness or romantic inclination or whatever the content is eliciting in you. Yet at the same time, you know it's not, quote, really real. It's a movie. Apparent reality is kind of like that. The images, the experiences, say the ladies in beautiful dresses and bonnets of the Regency who are walking across your screen, and the gentlemen who are wooing them. As the Buddha says, whatever may appear there, we know that none of it is real in the context of the movie or watching Bridgerton on TV. But what we may not also do is realize that it's like that with everything there is. So this means that not only the things that appear to be outside, the movies, the television shows, the drama at your latest family gathering, the political machinations going on in the world, but also things happening interiorly, the anger, the sadness, the jealousy, the arrogance, the misperception that we experience as within ourselves. These too are like illusions in that they come together as though conjured up, a different set of causes and conditions that come together in some way to effect these particular displays inwardly and outwardly. What the Buddha is saying is that when we look at our experience, there is the way things appear, which we experience either accurately or inaccurately all the time. And then there's also the way things are. To use the example of the friend who passes us in a huff, the way things appear is that they're angry at us. Then it turns out that that's an inaccurate way of its appearing. What was actually happening, the accurate way of its appearing, was that that person was very caught up in their particular experience in the moment and didn't notice you. But then there's also the way they actually are. A person who seems to be a static thing is actually also a product of many different dependent arisings coming together at any given moment. So our friend is going to manifest to us in a certain way when they're in a good mood, in a different way when they're in a bad mood, and perhaps not really interact with us at all if they're so absorbed that they don't even know we're there. But the way they actually are, these are all of the ways they appear depending on different causes and conditions. The way they actually are is much more enigmatic. much more difficult and will be the topic of our next episode. For today, what we're going to look at is apparent reality. The great Indian master Chandrakirti, in his Entrance to the Middle Way, describes the two as follows. There are two ways of seeing everything, the perfect way and the false way. So each and everything that can ever be found holds two natures within. This is really profound. That means that at any given moment, whether we choose something in what appears to be our external phenomenal world, an empirical world of sensory experience, or our internal emotional world, anything we choose has these two natures. The way it appears, in other words, how it comes together depending on various causes and conditions in flux, and the way it actually is in genuine reality. A great deal of practice in Mahamudra and related Tibetan Buddhist streams, such as Madhyamaka, has to do with seeing the true nature of things just as they are, seeing what is as it is. And what does this perfect seeing see? It sees the suchness, the genuine reality of all things, while false seeing, mistaken seeing, sees the apparent reality. What we think of as life, the world, empirical reality, is from the perspective of these teachings, apparent reality. Why is it even called reality then, if it's so illusory? Well, it's real to us. If a car that is in genuine reality an illusion runs over our foot, it will really hurt. It will really cause us pain and damage. To the extent that we are operating under the influence of ignorance that misperceives the true nature of things, we experience apparent reality. In other words, apparent reality is your mind on samsara. Buddhist practice is aimed at bringing mind to sufficient rest, tranquility, and stillness so that we can use mind's own powers of insight and precision to penetrate to the true nature just as it is, first on a conceptual level, and as we continue to develop more and more familiarity, we near and then reach a direct experience of the true nature just as it is. In other words, the nature of all the things that we've been experiencing all of our lives. This gives us enough of an introduction for what apparent reality is to get started. In our next episode, we'll also look at genuine reality, and from there, we'll look at some implications of this doctrine of the two truths that actually help us to live a more present, full, and engaged existence in our life right here and now. The most important thing to be aware of as we begin this exploration is to recognize that genuine reality, the true nature of things, is not something separate, something transcendent in the sense of out there somewhere. It is transcendent in the sense of getting us out of our habit of misperception, our habit of not engaging all of the things of our life with fullness, presence, and complete openness. Instead, our particular filters and karmic conditioning predispose us to engage a very subjective slice of experience, trimming down all of the fullness and beauty of all the people, places, and things and emotions that we experience, and only seeing the slice that is accessible to us in any given moment. So you could say that this style of practice the Mahamudra practice that it increases our familiarity and our ability to rely on prajna, mind's inherent ability to intricately discern the nature of things as they are, is the practice of being more completely and fully present with all that is, as it is, and the way it happens to be manifesting based on particular causes and conditions at this moment, without freezing that particular way of manifesting, so that that person, place, thing, or emotion does not have the freedom to change. When we practice in this way, we have the ability, the courage, and the agility to encounter experience as it changes moment by moment with curiosity, interest, and complete receptivity, without predisposing whatever we experience to ideas of what they should be. We hope you'll enjoy this exploration of apparent and genuine reality and how it affects our practice and our life. For our contemplation of authentic reality, consider these verses on the samadhi, or meditative concentration of illusion, from texts on the middle way. Some of these were a part of the talk you just heard, and they have been crafted into beautiful songs that we can sing in English by the great translators of the Kagyu lineage, Jim Scott and Ari Goldfield, who served Kyabje Khinchen Tsultrim Gyatso Rinpoche for so many years. Links to these verses are available in the episode notes. From the Sutra of the Noble Collection. Know the 5 skandhas, the body-mind complex, are like an illusion. Don't separate the illusion from the skandhas. Free of thinking that anything is real, this is perfect wisdom's conduct at its best. From the King of Samadhi Sutra, all the images conjured up by a magician, the horses, elephants, and chariots of their illusions, whatever may appear there, know that none of it is real, and it's just like that with everything there is. From Nagarjuna's knowledge, fundamental to the middle way, like a dream, like an illusion, like a city of Gandharvas that disappears before your eyes. That's how birth, and that's how living, that's how dying are taught to be. From Chandakirti's entrance to the middle way, there are 2 ways of seeing everything, the perfect way and the false way. So each and everything that can ever be found holds 2 natures within. And what does perfect seeing see? It sees the suchness of all things, and false seeing sees the apparent reality. This is what the perfect Buddha said. From the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life by Shantideva, then wanderers, these dreamlike beings, what are they? If analyzed, they're like a banana tree. One cannot make definitive distinctions between transcending misery and not. By listening, contemplating, and meditating on these verses and teachings on apparent and genuine reality, we can gain increasing, precise, accurate knowledge of the way things are, the liberating knowledge of prajna.
This is Zopa and Yeshe for PRAJNA SPARKS. Be sure to join us every month on the new moon for fresh episodes. Stay tuned now for a guided meditation. Shivnee is our Tibetan singing bowl artist. Thanks for the generosity of giving us some time out of your day to like, subscribe, share, and review PRAJNA SPARKS. It really does help us to spread the gift of Dharma to new listeners. If you have any questions, contact us via email, Instagram, or Facebook. Check the episode notes for those links and for more resources on today's topic. Visit us on the web at prajnafire.com or follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Prajna Sparks. Thank you for listening. May all beings benefit. Hello, friends, fellow seekers, Buddhas to be. Welcome to this meditation on apparent reality. Of course, apparent reality is a huge topic, so we'll just be taking one particular avenue of investigating it in our own experience, cultivating precise knowledge, helping ourselves discover for ourselves just what it is that we believe, what we feel, what we see with regard to apparent reality and how we understand it. This is kind of like a check-in on what it is that we believe, kind of digging into some of the subtleties of it, particularly in regard to interdependence, that way that apparent reality functions. To begin with, let's just take our seat, which means coming into the present, allowing whatever is going on for you to be here, nothing to adopt or reject, nothing that you have to push away or get rid of through antidotes or anything else. It's just simply bringing our attention to the here and now and to our own embodiment, our own presence, feeling the support of the earth beneath us, the spaciousness of sky around us, and our particular incarnation at this moment, allowing it to be even as we ground into stability and claim our seat, our meditative posture. So take a few moments to feel into that. We'll start our meditation with tranquility meditation, cultivating one-pointedness of mind through focusing on the breath or any other focal object that feels appropriate to you here and now, with the recognition and goal in mind of letting go of distractions, of having mind rest one-pointedly on whatever the object is that we've chosen, using that focal object as an anchor for our awareness. So we know even when we get distracted slightly, and we can gently, without judgment, just bring mind back to the meditation object. We will do 5 minutes of tranquility meditation now. in this space of settled, calm alertness, let us turn now towards experiential inquiry into apparent reality. Specifically, we're going to be exploring in our own experience how it is that things arise in dependence on causes and conditions. And in particular, we're going to focus on our experience which feels interior to us, our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, all these moments of mind, heart that we experience. In general, we tend to know that all things arise in dependence on causes and conditions with regard to material phenomena. We look at a tree and we know that it arose based on its seed, on the soil, on the water that it received, on the warmth of the sunlight, and so forth. All of those causes and conditions that bring it about. We might not be as clear on that as we would like, but it's fairly straightforward, and it's a good thing to remember. However, we are often fuzzy about this fact when it comes to our interior landscape. So we're going to explore these moments of mind arising in dependence on causes and conditions and ask ourselves, is there anything in my experience that this is not true of? When we reach some clarity or feeling of, oh yeah, that is the way it is. Or wow, that's true about my blank. Whatever the mental state is that you have. Worry, jealousy, joy, apathy, whatever it is that you're experiencing right now, investigate that. And when you reach some clarity of like, oh yeah, this does come about through causes and conditions, then stop the analysis and rest one-pointedly in that certainty, in that knowing that you've gotten to. And then once that knowing naturally fades, be it after a second or after a minute or however long, again, take up the investigation of your current mental state, whether it's thoughts, feelings, emotional state, whatever it might be. One point to keep in mind, we likely won't be able to identify all of the causes and conditions that bring up our current mental state. But we can get some sense of how a previous moment of our mental state, or hearing my voice, or discomfort from our sitting affects this moment of our mental state, whatever it might be. And we don't have to identify all of the causes and conditions. It's enough for our purposes here just to recognize that our emotional state, our mental state, comes about due to causes and conditions, and cultivate the recognition of that, cultivate the certainty that that is the way it is in our own experience. This may spur us to investigate, wow, I want to know more about those causes and conditions, in which case this further drives our listening to the Dharma. Let's take an example to get us started. I can take up my current state of this mixture of ease, enthusiasm, and a little bit of worry, and I look inward. Do I believe that this ease, enthusiasm, and bit of anxiety comes from causes and conditions? Do I think that it just comes out of nowhere, that it's random or chaotic? And I can start to parse apart what came immediately before it and how that's influencing this present moment, emotional state of mind that I am experiencing. And as I investigate it, getting really fine in the details and the attention that I am putting into it, then I can see, oh yeah, this right here, that little tinge of anxiety. I can see how it comes in part from the previous instant where I was distracted and thinking about something else, something I had to do today. And once I see clearly that this present moment of mind comes from causes and conditions, then I drop my analysis and rest one-pointedly in that knowing for myself that these mental states of mind come from causes and conditions. And then as that fades, again I take up the analysis right here and now of this present moment of mind, this present feeling that I might have. The great thing is we can do it no matter what our state of mind is, because we know it. We have it going on for us right now. Let's engage in that kind of analysis, resting in knowing, returning back to the analysis. If we find ourselves distracted by thought or carried off into a storyline, when we notice that, we can use that very distraction as meditation, meaning we can look into it and say, oh, this distraction that I was just experiencing, does that come up through causes and conditions? And so forth. Let's practice like that now for another 5 minutes or so. In this way, we can explore for ourselves this teaching on apparent reality, on how all of these experiences, appearances of apparent reality come about due to causes and conditions. If in our meditation we found that we were a little bit unclear, or there was some knowledge that we were missing, that we felt, oh, I need to fill that in. What does the Buddha say about this? Maybe I'm unclear. That's a wonderful thing, as it points us back to more investigation, research, listening to teachings that we can do in order to clarify for ourselves, sharpen our precise knowledge. I am so grateful for your practice, for taking this time to delve into your own experience a little bit and become more aware of just what is going on. The Buddha's teachings are not about forcing ourselves to believe something just because. They really are about investigating our own experience in the light of these wisdom teachings of vast depth that the Buddha and all of the lineage masters, all of the amazing teachers have brought to us down through the millennia, so that we can get to know our own mind and how reality works in a much more precise fashion, so that we're able to act skillfully, gently, with compassion and wisdom, revealing those qualities in ourselves further and further, such that we may genuinely be of benefit to ourselves and others. Please share whatever goodness has come from this meditation, as well as from the listening and contemplating that preceded it, with all beings, that we may all recognize the apparent nature of our minds and our experience, as well as the genuine nature of our minds. Thank you for all that you do and all that you are.